Good morning and welcome to Worldwide Wisdom. We are the survivors. We're the survivors of the flood. Tufan al-Aqsa is the Arabic name given by Sinwar. May his name be blotted out and erased and may rot in hell for eternity. The architect of October 7th called it a flood. The Al-Aqsa flood. This wasn't about the south of Israel. This was about all of Israel. This was about the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, what they call Al-Aqsa. It was a flood. And we survived the flood. Wasn't easy. It's been 2 years of war, and nobody quite knows if the war is actually over or not. It seems like the ceasefire is holding by a hair.
It's not really.
No, they just bombed.
Oh, so it's over?
They killed 2 Israeli
Yeah, I know.
soldiers. They just went in and dropped 100 bombs on Gaza.
Yeah, but apparently the ceasefire is back on again or back off. I don't know. I'm not sure. I have no idea what the status is. If the war is actually over or not, it's all quite confusing.
Right.
But
Exactly.
For now, let's say we have no living hostages in Gaza. Thank God. And we're trying to heal from our wounds. We have a very special event on Thursday night called Healing Together. I'd like to invite all of our listeners to tune in. It's on live on JBS. You can find it on this channel. It's on the Jewish Broadcasting Service. And it's also on this YouTube channel on Thursday night, 7 p.m. Watch us live. And what happens is that I can't help but draw a parallel to the flood of this week's Torah portion, where Noah is the 10th generation after Adam in a fresh new world. Ed,
Quiet.
Hey,
he's the 10th generation after Adam, and the world has descended into corruption. The way the Torah describes the corruption is with one word, Hamas. Ki mal'ah ha'aretz Hamas, for the earth has been filled with Hamas. The word Hamas in Hebrew means corruption. The world descended into total anarchy, into total corruption, into total chaos. Noah builds an ark by God's instruction. He builds this ark, and he hi there, April, nice to see you. Linda from Michigan, and everybody else, Shoshana from New York. He builds an ark. He saves his wife, his daughter-in-laws, 3 daughters-in-law, and 3 sons. And together with that, he brings together all the animals of the world. How many animals did he bring onto the ark? 2 of each. Except for the kosher animals, how many animals of the kosher did he bring? 7 pairs. 14 of each animal is what he brought onto the ark. The ark was structured into 3 tiers. The top one was for humans. The middle one was for animals. And the third one was for waste and refuse, which is kind of interesting that they didn't just dump their waste. They didn't pollute the ocean. It's interesting, right? They had a whole floor for the waste.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd think they'd have some sort of an escape hatch where they just dump it out the window, but they didn't do that. What they do, they had they kept the waste on their ship, right? That's what they did. Now, what does Noah do through this through the flood? If we're able to analyze Noah's behavior after the flood, we can draw references or guidance or tools that we need to understand how we need to be conducting ourselves today after the flood. Because there's something called survivor's guilt. Survivor's guilt is an interesting condition where a survivor actually feels guilty for having survived. Their friends died on October 7th. Their friends were murdered in captivity, Hamas tunnels, and now they feel guilty about it. And tragically, you hear about this. Survivors of October 7th that take their own lives. 2 years later, there was 2 survivors that committed suicide on October 7th this year because they couldn't stand the thought that their loved ones died and then they survived and they carry this burden with them. It's a profound psychological condition that is very difficult for us to understand, difficult for us to process unless you've actually been there. All we can do is try to empathize with them, try to feel their pain, even though we can't, but at least try to make space, to hold space for them. But the question is, what about us? We're all survivors. You know, when New York Mayor, I'm trying to get political here, but when New York Mayor, who's the Jewish one?
Ed Koch.
Ed Koch.
How am I doing?
Ed Koch met with the chief rabbi of Israel, Chief Rabbi Yisrael Meir Lau. His son is chief rabbi now. But this chief rabbi Lau was actually a survivor of Buchenwald of the concentration camps. He was 8 years old, 9 years old, when he was rescued from the concentration camps. And Ed Koch was an American boy. But when Ed Koch met Rabbi Lau, he said to him, Ed Koch said to the rabbi, the chief rabbi, I too am a survivor. So the rabbi is like, you, a survivor? What do you mean you're a survivor? So Ed Koch explained that there was a conference of mayors in Munich or Berlin a while earlier. And at that conference of mayors from around the world, the hosts gave them a tour of Hitler's bunker. And when they went through Hitler's bunker, they found a map on the table, on the wall. And this map of the world had a number in every country. And that number, they asked, what is this number? And that number represented the amount of Jews that the Nazis estimated lived in each country, because they were out to destroy the Jews. So what they were trying to do was to identify exactly how many Jews were in each country that were their mission. And they noticed that in Estonia, I think it was a country of Estonia, there was like one. They figured that they only knew about one Jew in Estonia, so that was one Jew too many. But they noticed over the United States of America was another number, maybe 2 million or whatever the number was. There was a number there too. Large. And the mayors realized that they too were on the Nazi hit list. So said Koch to the rabbi, I too am a survivor, because had the Nazis not been stopped, we were next in line. I think that along that same line of logic, we are all survivors of October 7th. You know, they started with the southern Gaza Strip, the border, the Gaza envelope. They were intention to take over Israel, and they won't stop until they go for every last Jew. We are the survivors of October 7th. The question is, what are we doing about it? The Torah tells us that Noach emerges from the ark, Vayishaer ach Noach, and only Noach remained. The word only seems redundant. It's unclear what it means. The word only is a minimizing word. And only Noach remained. Noach remained only. So it seems like something was missing from Noach. There was like a minimization here. And the commentary, Rashi, explains that Rashi explains that on the one hand, Noach remained alone because all the rest of the generation died. But it brings another interpretation from the Medrash that he was actually overwhelmed, he was consumed, he was coughing blood from the endless obligations of feeding all the animals. Can you imagine feeding all those animals? You know, this one needs to eat every 2 hours, this one needs to eat every 20 minutes, this one needs to eat every 3 days, right? I mean, can you imagine keeping calculations on that? I can't imagine Noah had any time to sleep. Yeah. He was just constantly feeding the animals, right? There's actually an interesting story over there about the Medrash brings a story that he came late to the lion, and the lion was angry with him, so the lion bit him, and he was limping. From what I understand, he was limping for the rest of his life, and that's what it means that Noah comes out alone, that there's something missing. He was limping as he emerged from the ark. Essentially, there's another story about a bird that didn't complain. The one animal that didn't complain to Noah about late food in the ark was the bird. So Noah blessed this bird with long life. What is this bird that has long life? In Hebrew, it's called the chol. Chol, which translates as a phoenix.
Ooh, translates as what?
Phoenix.
Didn't survive. I don't see a phoenix around.
You don't see phoenixes?
Phoenix.
Apparently, phoenixes are real, from what I understand. According to Torah, let's see.
Yeah, it's mythology. I don't think it's anything. No.
Let's see what ChatGPT has to say here. We'll do a quick search.
There are two in Cleveland.
The phoenix is a mythical bird, not a real one, according to ChatGPT. Okay. Now, born from the flames. In Jewish thought, it's quoted in the book of Job. It's called the chol. The chol refused to eat from the tree of knowledge and was granted eternal life. Okay. So whatever that means. Right. Anyways, that's just interesting. I'm not a biologist, but I'm here to tell you that the Medrash the Gemara talks about a bird which somehow regenerates at the end of his life because of Noah's blessing. And anyways, where am I going with this? Is that Noach had an awesome responsibility. He had an awesome obligation. By the way, when Jacques Lifshitz was an Italian sculptor, came to visit the Rebbe. He came to the Rebbe, I think it was in the 60s. He was building a monument outside of the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. And he was sculpting a phoenix. He was commissioned to sculpt a phoenix, but he felt uncomfortable making a phoenix, which is a Greek mythological creature. Right. So he asked the Rebbe, what should I do? So the Rebbe went over to the bookshelf, pulled out a book, and he showed him, the phoenix is a Jewish bird, go right ahead. And the phoenix sculpture stands to this day, outside of the Hebrew University in Jerusalem.
And the rabbi didn't even have ChatGPT.
Right. So back to the story. How does Noah live his life? Is that while the world is being destroyed, he's feeding the animals. Instead of wallowing in depression, instead of drinking himself silly to anesthetize his pain or his guilt or his trauma, what Noah does is that he feeds the animals, even if it's not easy and even if it's at the cost of his own health, that he gets bitten by a lion. The lesson that the Rebbe teaches us from this is that all of us are survivors of the flood. Now, the Rebbe was referring here to the flood of the Holocaust, but I think it's easy for us to extend that to the flood of October 7th. I'm so sorry. We are all the embers that have been extracted from the fire. Just like Noach was empowered with this mission of sustaining the surviving creations, so too we, the survivors, must take it upon ourselves to sustain our fellow Jews all around the world. It's not enough for us to survive, we have to nourish. And that's really what this event is about. It's healing together. This event on Thursday night at 7 p.m. right here on YouTube channel is designed in order to share comforting words, to make sense of the madness, to help us process the emotions, to channel grief into action, to be able to emerge with as little trauma as possible and as much clarity as possible as to our purpose, as to our mission. And that's why I want to encourage you very much to participate in this event in person. And if you can't come in person, then at least you can watch it online. It's broadcast live in 50 states on the Jewish Broadcasting Service. Yeah.
If I recall, you said Noah included in his ark or his family.
Yeah.
Okay, so he chose to save his family, and in lieu of saving other Jews, he chose to save animals.
There were no Jews.
Yeah, there were no Jews. He wasn't Jewish. Noah wasn't Jewish. But Noah was supposed to save other people. God instructed him to slow track the construction of the ark. It took him 120 years, because the purpose was for people to stop and see what he's doing, and to get inspired by him, that he's building an ark. He unfortunately wasn't very influential.
Correct himself.
And maybe he was a righteous man in a silo. Maybe he wasn't really. And honestly, it's a good question. Before the flood, Noah was of no influence on other people except for his wife and children, which, by the way, is a good start. Imagine people would do that today, influence their wives and children to make the right choices, right?
How was he able to?
And not everybody's able to, but that should make a quick contrast. So before the flood, Noah was of zero influence, but after the flood, he rebuilds a world of righteousness. So the flood taught Noah empowerment. It taught him about his mission and his purpose, which is to go out and make a difference, as opposed to remaining sequestered in a silo. Yeah.
How was he able to know how much food to bring in for all the animals and all that, and be able to have enough in that ark?
I imagine that he had divine assistance, and that, first of all, how did the animals know to come into the ark? They came on their own, right? Number one, yeah, they came on their own. And second of all, how did the food manage in the ark from spoiling, right? How are you going to keep all that milk from going bad, right? No refrigerator.
Mm-hmm.
But also, it says that the animals didn't want to leave the ark. Why did no one leave the ark? Because there was a spirit of Mashiach inside the ark. There was a utopian presence inside the ark. So I imagine that there was some sort of divine assistance intervention going on with this story in general.
So why'd the lion
And
bite him?
they all
Because he
got
was
along.
tranquil. Why
Because
didn't
the
he-
message, so the message is, so the
Yeah,
message,
why the lion bite him?
the message is that our mission is to go out and fulfill our assignments in this world, not to be sequestered, but rather to be influential. And that's not always going to be easy. Sometimes you're going to have to deal with a lion that's trying to bite you, right? Sometimes it could be scary. Sometimes you'll face oppositions and obstacles in your path. And you might become disheartened to think, maybe I'm not supposed to do this, right? That's the Torah hints to us that we have to learn from Noach, not to give up. And even if you're limping, to proceed on forward, march forward with your mission. And that you can think, no, I'll do my mission, says the Rebbe, I'll do my mission. But you know what? I'm going to do it without gusto. I'll do it, out of obligation, and duty, not out of passion and excitement. Comes the Rebbe and he says, no, you can't do that. When you recognize how lucky you are, that you were one of the lucky few who were chosen to be saved. Just think of the Holocaust, how many died in the Holocaust, and how few were saved. Think of, if I think of myself, my family was back in Sighet, Transylvania. How many of them died in the gas chambers of Auschwitz, and somehow my ancestors, my grandparents survived. My grandmother was literally sent to the left side by Mengele, and he went to retrieve her and brought her back. There's a whole story about my great aunt, who was very beautiful. So Mengele decided to bring her back. Can you imagine? So we were literally plucked out of the inferno, and somehow we were brought to survive. When we reflect on this fact, the Rebbe says, instead of fighting the depression, we have to actually, the survivor's guilt, we have to be infused with joy, with a profound sense of purpose. The Rebbe says that we have to live double and redoubled efforts to make up for those lives lost. Think about how many diseases would be cured today if all those Jews survived the Holocaust. We managed to get the guy that came up with a vaccine for COVID, right? Albert Mullah, something from Pfizer, right? That they were able to come up with a vaccine for
Polio.
right? Think about the world's diseases that were cured by Jews, and yet they massacred the Jews in that genocidal Holocaust, right? How many Jews would have survived? How the world would have been different.
Of course.
We have to make up for their losses. We have to live the lives with added passion and added vigor and added enthusiasm to make sure that we're not letting the grass grow under our feet, but rather that we're making a difference, because we've got to be like Noah, who rebuilds the world after the devastation of the flood. We cannot just say, no, what next? Now we've got to go out and rebuild the world. We've got to influence our fellow Jews to the right decisions. We have to influence the rest of humanity to make the right choices, to infuse them with the right values. Teach your family about Shabbos. Teach them about tefillin. Teach them about God. Teach them about purpose and values. And once they do that, you'll notice how their actions will soon follow suit. Their choices will soon follow suit. If you're able to infuse values into our families, into our communities, into our humanity, values very soon become actions, and that is going to make all the difference. Like Noah could rebuild the world after the flood, we too must. We have no choice. We have to rebuild this world after October 7th. We cannot look backwards. We've got to look forward. We don't understand God's enigmatic ways. It's a mystery to us all, and we're not here to condone it, but we are here to learn a lesson about how we proceed, and the only way forward is forward. And I just want to conclude with the words that Rabbi Lau came to the Rebbe, and it was after the Yom Kippur War. It was a very depressing time in Israel, because the Yom Kippur War was a catastrophe for Israel, where Golda Meir was too afraid to initiate, to strike first, as the Torah calls us to. She knew that the attack was coming, but she didn't want the United Nations to accuse us of being aggressors, right? The United Nations is a flank of the Hamas terrorist organization, tragically. So she didn't want to do that. So we lost almost 3,000 soldiers. After the Yom Kippur War, the Rabbi Lau came to the Rebbe and he said that the Rebbe asked him, knew what's going on in Israel. So he said that people are asking Lama. Why? Lama means why. The Rebbe's response to him was that a Jew never asks Lama. Why? A Jew asks Lema. Same exact word, but just different invisible vowels. Not Lama, why, but Lema, which means for what? For what end? For what next? We don't ask, why did the past happen? We don't get dwelling, we get stuck in the past. We ask, where do we go from here? What's the action that we need to take? Like Noah proceeded to build the world. He planted a vineyard. He planted a new world. He influenced, he sustained, he fed, even if it was difficult, even if it was painful. We have no choice but to do the same exact thing. Share the light, share the wisdom, share the values, and that is how we're going to rebuild a better and stronger world.
That's what